Northern Power Women podcast. For your career and your life, no matter what business you're in.
Hello and welcome to the second episode in our showcase season of the Northern Power Women podcast. I'm your host, Simone Roche, and as we get closer to this year's Northern Power Women Awards, 21st of March for your calendar, a night that is dedicated to showcasing the amazing talent we've got across the North. Every week I'm going to be chatting to incredible role model from across the community. This week I'm joined by yet another fantastic changemaker, trailblazer, who, I've only just told her, joined the Power List, which we announced last week. Gloria Hyatt MBE, Liverpool's first black head teacher and recipient of an MBE for services to education. The school and academy that she established served secondary and adult learners from predominantly black and racial minority groups across the Liverpool city region to learn, train and gain career-based qualifications. And as founder of the Teach Consultancy, she has led the successful delivery of a range of education, coaching, consultation services to small organisations locally, nationally and internationally. She continues to support transformational change, recently co-producing the first action research commissioned by the Office of the Metro Mayor at Liverpool City Region Combined Authority on the barriers and enablers for black entrepreneurs in the Liverpool City Region, with recommendations, and is now contributing to the change needed in the business ecosystem. Wow, I'm going to sit back, take a breath, get a brew. Welcome to the podcast, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Simone, for having me. I appreciate it.
You know what? Your achievements are huge, aren't they? But so widespread and equally still ongoing. You know, I can tell you're a woman that is, I'm just on a mission and I'm just going to keep going. So it's hard to know where do we start with this. But let's talk. What is at the heart of everything that you have done is teaching. What led you or what took you on that path into education and teaching?
Well, I think it started out for me when I was, a young person. I was in primary school. I was only 7, and my teacher gave me a chocolate orange for my birthday, and she used to drive a TR7, and she was dead cool and trendy, and she really cared about me. And the reason why that was really important to me is I was a kid in the care system and I wasn't used to being treated like that. And so I thought, wow, I want to be like her. And being like her meant I wanted to be a teacher. So that was the first thing. The next thing was later on when I'd moved, and typical of kids in care, we moved around a lot. And I met another teacher and I was particularly good. I was a talented athlete, Merseyside champion and Northern champion sprinter. So, this teacher took me under the wing, the PE teacher, and she really took an interest in me. And I looked at her and I thought, I want to be able to do this, do what she does, help kids to be better at PE and help them to improve. And then, of course, there was the English side of things. I loved reading and writing. And so she just inspired me and I thought, I want to be a teacher. I want to be like her. And that's also kept me on that path, basically.
We talk about that a lot of times, where that is that one person as you're growing up. And it's interesting what you just said there. It's not so much it's the one that inspired you just to push, but it's the one person that just took care. And I think that's it just took care, took notice of you. I think it's feels like a small thing, but it's a massive thing, isn't it? And do you think that's made you who you are, right? And has that made you want to pass on that and pay that forward?
Absolutely. I mean, because of my circumstances and because that saying, it's not what they say, it's how they make you feel, is so important. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make other people feel better, like I felt better, feel inspired like I felt inspired, feel like I can do this like I felt. She gave me all those feelings and feel supported. And I just knew that that's the kind of teacher I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to be remembered for, and that's what I wanted to leave a legacy around.
So when did you first start to notice the inequality in education and in a broader sense?
Well, I think there was a number of things happening. I mean, I was I run it as a joke, but it's the truth. I was the only black kid in the village, And so I stood out, and what I noticed is that I was treated differently from other kids. Not by all the teachers, but by some of the teachers. And I experienced quite a bit of name calling. And so I learned to fight, physically fight. And then what I found is that the teachers didn't actually treat you the same when they dealt out punishments. I was usually punished more. And not many people know this, but I actually got excluded from one school because I was what I call standing up for myself. So I noticed those things, but then it became more apparent when I started reading about it in uni and finding out that kids were being put in special needs schools. They were considered that intellectually inferior, and I thought, how can you be intellectually inferior just because you're a different colour to somebody? And I knew I wasn't intellectually inferior. I was a high achieving student. So reading and then going into schools when I was a student teacher, I could see that the kids were being ignored. Black kids were putting their hands up and they weren't being asked to answer the question. They were being put in lower sets. And then the really personal stuff about you can't wear your hair the way it's naturally worn, having plaits. That's the way it was naturally worn by black kids at the time, but we weren't allowed. So there was attacks on your identity. So all these things I noticed, and I just thought, I need to do something about it, and I'm going to. And that's what sort of set me on my mission for changing the education system.
And it's just simply not fair. And I couldn't even begin to imagine what that was like. Because like you said, it's from a personal perspective and actually just being treated on a totally different level. It's just to a totally different standard. So how did you know where to begin? And how, where did you start in changing this?
Well, I think I learned and I knew where to begin because of a failure. Because what I'd done is I'd written an assignment, and my lecturer in college, the assignment was black underachievement in education and overachievement in sport. And the lecturer failed me, and she said, I don't understand your lot. And I was aghast. I was so hurt.
Oh my
I thought,
God.
I'm leaving. I'm never going to be a teacher. I don't want to be around these horrible people. But a white lecturer who was, very high-ranking male came and got involved, and he said, no, you're not leaving, and you're so good at articulating what the problems are. I think you should go and train them. So I became the staff trainer as a student in my university. And I got support from my other teachers. And so basically that's when I realised, actually, I am the solution, and I've got to realise that it's going to be a tough path, but I'm tough enough to deal with this. So basically what I started doing then was looking for solutions. So I started writing more. I felt like I've got to be defiant and write more, but speak to people more and educate them more and tell them, not just teachers, but young people. I taught them about setting up strategies for dealing with the challenges that they had and helping them with self-belief. So I started doing loads of personal development on myself and learning about how to speak to people, how to enthuse people, how to build self-esteem and resilience. And then I just try and translated it into what eventually became our business plan. So,
and was that easy to get people on board? Did anyone out there surprise you that you think, well, I'm going to be cheeky, I'm going to ask, but they're never going to say yes? Did anyone surprise you?
Well, to be honest with you, if you think about it, I was a teacher, but I was inadvertently pushed into becoming a business person, because what happened is I had a permanent job, a cushy job, a job with a pension and a job for life. And it was my former social worker who came to me and said, Gloria, there's this organisation. It's only a 6-month contract, but I think you can do this. Speak to these people. So basically, I spoke to people in the community, people who were teachers and people who were influencers, and said, look, I want to go for this job, but I want it to be a school. I don't want it to be a 6-month community project. That's stereotypical. That's low expectation. And so I got loads of people to help me. It wasn't easy. I think sometimes I didn't have a clue, because I just went up there and said, just, can you do this? I was kind of forthright, I was fearless. I didn't realise that you had to be fearful, to be honest. I just did it. But then I started taking advice from, influencers who were doing, high in the education system, and they were guiding me to know how to approach people. So it definitely wasn't easy, and I got so many rejections, and it took us 8 years, actually. No, 6 years to become a school. So for 6 years, we were doing all these community activities, because in Liverpool, that's all they expected of black organisations, that they were just community, that they couldn't be mainstream. But I just knew it was going to happen, and I knew I had this big idea that we're going to become an independent school. I didn't know we were going to become the first independent school that was an academy. I just knew we were going to do it, and we were going to achieve it some way, somehow. And by having loads of conversations and plotting and planning, and I used to have a little pad at the side of my bed and write ideas down, it just got done.
I love it. I love that whole, the plotting, the planning, being fearless. I mean, we talk about the Maya Angelou quotation earlier, and I'm picking some some cracking ones up here. I love that. I mean, I am the solution was something that you said earlier. And what advice could you give to someone who wants to affect change in that way that you have and is part of the start of their journey? How do we encourage them to be less fearful and be more fearless?
Well, I think the thing you need to do really is look at somebody who inspires you and model them. I had loads of women who were real achievers. Maybe they hadn't been recognised as achievers, but they were, because they'd broken down barriers and done things that hadn't been done before. So I think what you do is you model them, you watch them, you listen to them, you put your own stamp on it, but you learn from what they do and how they do it. I think that's the first thing, is modelling. I think one of the other things is make sure that you build good relationships, you nurture relationships, that you actually recognise that you may have people who don't agree with you, but keep them in your relationships as long as they're not toxic, because there may be a time when they come round to your way of thinking, or they're going to be some help to you. The second thing, and I think this is probably the most important thing, is be yourself. Don't be worried about not being yourself. Even if people don't like you for who you are, it's better to be not liked for who you are than liked for who you're not. The most important one as well. They're also important to the but make sure you have your end in mind. Know what it is that you want to achieve. Know what it is that you want to see. Know what it looks like. Know what it smells like. Be determined that you are going to get there, and there will be lots of ups and downs along the way. It won't be an easy thing.
And I love all this. And we've been doing, for those of you regular listeners to the podcast, we've been doing our Power Up sessions, and we've been doing them with people at the start of their career and people in university and in colleges. And you know what, if I could bottle, in fact, actually, I think there's a whole T-shirt with all of those, have the end in mind, be true to yourself, build those good relationships. And I think building those relationships around you. And, I'm always a big fan of never burning bridges. You just never know what that one conversation, even if you think, oh, it's not now, I don't really get it, I'm going to, nobody's disposable, I think it's really building and putting a thing. So just a final sort of question, we talked about role modelling, and it's sometimes hard, to shout about your achievements. The sole reason I created the awards was to encourage people to high five themselves. It wasn't about one night on a stage with a beautiful trophy and a badge. It was about that wider conversation. It was about having this conversation today. It was about unearthing literally kick-ass role models, but but this is how we become role models. And so what do you say to people who are nervous to be heard?
Remember that everybody started off at the beginning, and that it takes time to build your greatness. So just be patient with yourself, be kind with yourself, keep believing in yourself, and remember that someone's watching you. So you are inspiring people already, so take the step, have courage, and just keep forging forward.
Wow. I have loved this. There's so much wisdom in here. I'm literally scrolling away. I can't even read my writing, but we translate these brilliant sound bites. We take this advice and we all put this out onto our social medias and that, because we want to share. So whether you're listening, whether you're reading some of these great wisdom, inspiration, then, fantastic. Gloria, I am so honoured that you have joined me today on the Northern Power Women podcast. So just in awe and inspired by what you have achieved and continue to achieve. There's no stopping you, is there? You are fearless. I love the fact that, you have gone from exclusion to inclusion. So I really appreciate your time today in joining me and giving us a whistle-stop tour of your journey and how to activate for good.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being with you.
It's been brilliant. The life lessons we've picked up along the way there have been totally phenomenal. So thanks all of you for tuning in today. Please do tell your friends about the podcast. Leave us a review. We have good chats. We share great wisdom. So please share on our socials at North Power Women on Twitter and at Northern Power Women on all other social media. Join us next week on the 21st of Feb when we'll be joined by another force of nature from across the Northern Power Women community. My name is Simone Roche and you've been listening to the Northern Power Women podcast, a What Goes On media production.